now, the presidential election is just 5 months away, and that means that candidates Trump and Biden are aggressively campaigning. And the economic recovery has been a big and important topic on the campaign trail for both candidates. To break down these plans and what they are planning to do, we're joined right now by Bruen, Global Situation Room President and former White House Director of Global Engagement. Brett, I'm glad you're here with us. I want to just start on the idea here that you can even have a plan when it comes to this economic recovery. There's just so much uncertainty right now, as we can see in the market action. No one really knows what's going to happen next. So is it even feasible for Biden and Trump to have a plan at this point?
Well, let's go to the root, Heidi, of why there is so much uncertainty. Certainly, we are confronted by multiple crises, and in any circumstance, it would be difficult. But part of this volatility is due directly to the fact that the President of the United States has not been providing the kind of leadership that the markets, as well as average citizens, would expect during this moment. We don't have a plan. We don't have a path forward. We've got a lot of tweets. We've got a lot of threats, but that's not going to reassure people.
And Brett, President Trump is the sitting president, so he can actually invoke change. When it comes to candidate Biden, he can't really do much right now in terms of laying out actual ways that we can help the economic recovery. So in that regard, is he at a disadvantage? Is Biden at a disadvantage?
Well, without question, the president has the power of the pen. He has the power of the bully pulpit. But Biden also has a great deal of power, not least because the president isn't offering concrete ideas. So Biden, as the apparent Democratic nominee, will be able to put forward ideas, whether it's in Congress or in state houses around the country. Leaders will pick up and say, at least here are some ideas to move forward. And in the absence of presidential leadership, this is perhaps the best option we've got.
Having said that, Brett, it seems like we're running on two tracks in terms of narratives going into November. On the one hand, you've got the economic downturn, which would seem to benefit Joe Biden. And then you've also got President Trump going after sort of this law and order theme, trying to galvanize his base around these protests. I'm wondering which one is going to be the louder voice as protesters or actually voters go into the booth and decide in November.
I think the key question for analysts is which is more elastic? Now, certainly the law and order approach that President Trump is taking will appeal to a segment of the American population, but he's already won over that segment. So really all he's doing is shoring up that base. Whereas the economic pain is far more widely felt. And if you look at past precedent, there is not a single president who was going into re-election with these kind of economic conditions that won.
And Brett, as we know, President Donald Trump loves to tout the stock market and market rallies as a sort of report card. And he also has been running on the fact that the economy was extremely strong before COVID-19 hit. If the pain that we're seeing from COVID-19 does not abate before the election, how is that going to play out for President Trump?
Well, you know, they say live by the markets and die by the markets. And I think that certainly was the concern of many of Trump's advisors when he was staking his political fortune so much on the performance of the markets. But let's also take into account the fact that a lot of this come November will seem quite significant in the steps that President Trump could have taken. He could have done more to stem the tide of COVID, to repair the economy. And all of that, I think, is going to weigh on voters' minds as they head to the ballot box.
How much of that is actually, you think voters are going to connect with the president, though? I mean, you talk about the economic conditions we're looking at right now. No president has faced this kind of downturn, but, I guess the counter argument would be that this was not a financial crisis that was brought on by the U.S. per se. And I'm curious, going back to where the voter mindset is, how much of that direct tie is actually being made right now?
Well, I think the argument President Trump has and will continue to make is the cupboards were bare. I inherited from the team that I worked with under President Obama a health structure and strategy that was insufficient. Now, let's just set that aside for a second and deal with the question of whether or not in the course of the 3 years that Trump had in office, he did enough. And I think this is a key issue because it gets to the question of whether or not things will change going forward should he be reelected. And at the end of the day, what I would argue we're seeing are a whole lot of tweets and threats, but not really anything of substance or any strategy that the American people can say, here's the plan for how we get out of this mess.
All right, Bruen, thank you so much for your insights. Global Situation Room President, have a very good weekend.